good evening.
Good evening.
Brilliant. Okay, before I start, who actually has come from, who lives in Dereham, by the way? I've got a bad news for you actually. Before I came in here tonight, a tramp came up to me, begging, and he said he hadn't eaten for 24 hours. I said, I wish I had your willpower. I've used that, well, I used to use that sort of thing in stand-up comedy, but that's not what you're going to learn. I'm going to talk about three things tonight, first of all. Well, three things overall. First of all, the confidence, stagecraft, and preparation. Then I'm going to talk about sort of structured speeches, or the speeches you're going to give, or presentations you're going to give, that you're going to write beforehand. And then the third part will be about how to use it perhaps in evaluations, and table topics, that sort of thing. Or maybe if you're just in a lift, with some standing lift, or breakdown, or make them entertaining. So they're the three things I'm going to talk about. You're not going to go away, and unless you're already funny, you're not going to go away and be funny. You need to work at it. You can't just say, that's it. But you'll have an idea that actually, if you want to be funny, or be humorous, or even just make people smile, there are things you can do. It's a formula. It's not simple, oh yeah, he knows how to do it. There is a formula, and actually, if you want to in the break, I brought along, just picked a few things off my bookshelf. There's about 6 books on how to write jokes and how to be humorous, a couple of joke books, because you know what, you should always read jokes. I've been doing it since I was a kid. So, let's think about fear. I've got my notes here, so I'm going to have to use my notes in the last minute. So let's think about fear of audience. Who, when they first started, was afraid, or even are now maybe, a little bit afraid of the audience? Have your hands up. Okay? Well, keep your hands up if you're not now afraid of the audience. If you're okay, you're comfortable on stage. Yeah, there's quite a few of you. That's good. Now, to be really good, making people laugh, I think you should make the audience afraid of you. Actually, it's not that difficult, because it isn't.
Thank you.
Well, we're afraid of you, Constance, anyway. It isn't that difficult, because actually, when you sit in an audience, who really wants to put their hand up and go forward? You kind of don't. You're frightened of that person on stage. So if you remember that, remember the audience is probably more frightened of you, it gives you a little bit more confidence inside to try things out. And the really important thing I think it's worth remembering is that it doesn't matter who that audience is. It would be extremely rare to find an audience that wants you to fail. Toastmasters want you to succeed. Even when I did stand-up comedy, I was clear that they wouldn't be paying to come in and see me to say, I hope he falls over and doesn't make me laugh. They want you to succeed, don't they? So that helps you to feel a little bit more comfortable. Now the interesting thing about humour is, it doesn't always work to get a laugh out loud. And that's interesting for Anita. You'll be saying you want to get a laugh, you want to be humorous. Write a humorous speech for a smile. That's all you need to be humorous. If you just get a smile, you've succeeded. If you get a laugh, it's even better. And you can't always control what's going to happen. This is quite a large room with a number of people in it. You're actually packed quite tightly. There's a chance of a humour dynamic. But if you was all sat quite disparate, it's more embarrassing for people to laugh. Imagine you're the only one laughing. You're not going to. So you're kind of more reserved. You don't always laugh. So when you go into anywhere you're going to do it for a speech, take a look at what it is there. Put your expectations accordingly. If you can control the way the audience is going to sit, then do the best to do so. This is all things that will help to make you more humorous. I was at Cambridge Speakers, we're doing a general evaluator there, and I'll come to this later, but my theme was about smiling and taking the mickey out. When I'm doing a general evaluator, by the way, you're not going to get away with me being, nice to you. You're going to everyone's going to get the mickey taken out of them. Right? And if it's with everybody, you can get away with it. No one's sort of, oh, it's the Toastmaster. So I was kind of doing this theme of smiling, and after somebody came up to me and said, well, you really didn't always think about smiling, but you weren't smiling. It wouldn't have worked if I'd smiled. You can't laugh at your own jokes. You have to make sure that when you're on stage, you haven't got to be Jack D, but you should keep a certain, you can't go like, oh, what a great one, and when they're laughing, you're not going to laugh. You're laughing at them, maybe. Now, vocal variety. Always take water on stage. Vocal variety is key. If you've done that in your CC manuals, if you've all done your CC manuals, And it probably takes at least another 5 speeches. For me, it took at least 5 speeches to get vocal variety. But if you go on stage to deliver a speech that you want to get some humour in, and all the time you're speaking, you're going to speak exactly the same way like this. A little bit like Marcus speaks, really. If you're just going to deliver it like that, it's not going to get a laugh. You really have to be more active with your voice. So there's another thing to consider. Do a bit of voice work before you go on the stage. Think about how you're going to deliver. Do vocal variety. Don't worry about failing. I actually think it's good sometimes, particularly if you've got the opportunity, to make a joke about the room. Do something about what's going on in the room. And actually we'll come to that end of the structured speeches in a little while. But I remember a particular time I did a bit of stand-up comedy. I wasn't as good as, say, Peter Ford, if you've heard of Peter Ford. He's fantastic. But I did a few gigs with him. And I remember I did a gig, I can't remember, I think it might have been Hemel Hempstead or in Croydon or somewhere. And there was this, we got into this room and it was freezing, it was in the winter, the heating wasn't working, you could see everybody had their coats on all. And I got out in the front and there was this absolutely great big massive spotlight on me. And I thought, crikey, I mean, this is the biggest I've ever seen, you know, so distracting. But I thought, you know what, go with it. And I said something like, I said, wow, that's a big spotlight, but at least it's warm. Yeah. And I got a massive, it wasn't part of my set, but I got a great laugh. So think about what's going on in the room, and if you can make a joke about it, it just brings the audience in. Who's done the humorous speaking manual, by the way, or is doing it? Okay. See, the thing is, you're all really experienced, and I'm thinking, God, I'm going to try and teach you guys how to do this. You already probably know it, right? So bear with me if this is not at the right level for you. I'm trying my best. In the humorous speaking manual, it's really interesting because it teaches you some really important stuff that actually most people in comedy would call timing. What they call it in Toastmasters, being American, they call it the pause and the punch line and the punch word. But it's really important to pause, just a small pause, before you deliver it. And I'll tell you why that is in a minute, but it's all to do with tension. I'll tell you why that works in a minute. But you pause, then you deliver, and then you wait. And the hardest thing in humour is to deliver something that you think is funny and wait for people to laugh. Okay, you've got to have a bit of confidence. If you don't wait for them to laugh, guess what? They're not going to laugh. If you do wait for them to laugh, they probably will, if you're confident. They probably think, what was that? And then they'd probably laugh. Even if it's just embarrassment for you. I mean, you know, it works for me. And the longer you leave it on, the better the embarrassment gets. But yeah, just pause for that. Now, I'm not talking about dress markers, that's tomorrow night. So I've talked about those joke books, I've talked about humour file. People will, I wrote a joke actually about my humour file. I think it's a bit rude for giving you it here, so I'm not, or maybe I'll talk to you in the half, or is this a rude, I don't know. I used to finish my stand-up comedy. See, the thing is with jokes, right, when you just, I'm going to tell you a joke, right, it's not funny, is it? It's not funny. But about the humour file is you really need to keep pen and paper, keep it handy with you. Everyone will tell you that. Get your joke books, write it down. Remember, Bob Ferguson told me, carry it everywhere you go with you. It might come in handy. And I carried it everywhere I went. I didn't get much use for it. But then one day when I was out shopping, I got caught short. I went to the toilet, sat down, and there was no paper. Well, the pad came in really handy. But the pencil was really painful. So you see, you can make a joke out of anything if you know the sort of tension you've got to build. I actually would say, forget, your joke files are great and you can get them off of the internet. If you want to put jokes into, you haven't written, you want to put them in, you can write them yourself. If you don't want to do that, in public speaking, rather than stand-up comedy, you can steal and expand and use them, right? So make your own of that. But I would also say, watch other comedians, watch people that are funny. Don't have to be, the people that are on telly, although they are great. For me, it was, I watched Peter Ford, which has been around since I first started, and he's always been getting better and better. I watched Bob Ferguson, who's got a different type of humour to me and to Bob, to Peter, and I watched Dave Jones. One of the reasons I went and joined Excalibur, because I wanted the whole humour, to learn more about how to do off-the-cuff speaking. And you watch people that will give you the particular things. It's not just humour, that's anything what you're going to learn in Toastmasters, and then analyse what they're doing. Thank you. Okay, so we talked about the punchline and the punch word. And the thing about that is, to get the punch word and the punchline right at the end. Because humour is about a twist. It's about that reveal right at the end. Don't tell them it right at the start. Some of my favourite quick jokes are things like two fish in a tank. One said to the other, "Do you know how to drive this?" Or Bob Monkhouse's quick one, where he said, "You laughed when I said I was going to be a comedian. Well, you're not laughing now." And it's just surprise, it's just twist, isn't it? That's what it's all about. So, that's what the techniques of humour is. You laugh at the twist, or a surprise, or an incongruence. That's one of the three that I'm going to talk about today. We laugh when we feel superior. So, this is hence why the Irish jokes, or the Scottish being tight, or whatever it might be, we used to compartmentalise people. That's why they were considered to be funny, because we felt superior. And I mentioned this earlier, we laugh for a release of tension. So I'll come to that when I come to the actual structured presentations, and that's one of the ones you're going to use a lot. Most of you will be using that regularly, I think. So set up, anticipation, punchline. My wife and I don't get along, that's the setup. I take my meals separately, I take a separate holiday, and I sleep in a separate bedroom. Anticipation, I'm doing everything I can to keep this marriage alive. Punchline, and the last word is the punch word. That's a particularly good joke, and I didn't write it, I wish I had. So, you've got your own style of speaking, I guess. You've all got your own style of speaking, and you need now to develop your own humour. That's the part about how you put it together. So let's look at prepared speeches then now. Does that all make sense what I've talked about there? Yeah. And that's all the technical stuff. In some ways, that's the kind of what you need to think about when you're writing humour. So prepared speeches. You can use stories. I remember I talked about a time when I was in the classroom, a teacher was standing right at the front of the class and he was shouting, "Stand up if you're a moron! Stand up!" We'd done particularly badly in our exams that year. And he was furious. "Stand up if you're a moron!" We all sit down. After a while I stood up. He said, "Bags, so you want to be a moron?" I said, "No sir, but I can't see you standing alone." Now, that didn't happen, right? The thing is, that didn't happen. But it was a very short, maybe 2 or 3 line joke that I saw in a book that I made a mark against, thinking, I'll use this one day. I embellished it a lot more than that, and I gave it as a speech. Actually, it's online, you can see it on one of my YouTube channel. I used it in a speech called Single Room Occupancy, which I delivered in Cambridge over a year ago, to give an example of how you can learn. I learned from a teacher how to be individual. And it was just a joke, but it created a great start to a speech. And you just embellish it. I did the same thing, for instance, when I did after dinner speeches. If I do after dinner speeches, we can regularly do the same thing. Or if anybody's doing the entertaining speaker, you have to do the roast, which is a really horrible thing to do. And I did the same thing with the roast when I did one for Ian Perry last year, I think it was. So you can use all of those things. You can use callbacks in the speech, and you can use jokes throughout. And you can, I think, it's a great thing to do is to make fun of authority. I'm doing a speech at the moment. I'm delivering it in 2 weeks in Alicante in their division conference. And I've delivered it 3 times already as target speech. I'm doing it out there. And at one point in it, I talk about. It's a psychology about it's a speaking to inform with humour in it, and I talk about how there's this guy getting telephone numbers in an experiment from women and asking them to dance, and I said, look, he's not an absolutely beautiful, devilish, handsome, fabulously good-looking guy like Steve Brewer, who was the area governor of. So I picked on him, and everybody laughed, right? And because I built up this whole tension, and you pick on the authority. So I don't know how it's going to work in Spain. I'll tell you later. That might not work. Anybody know Tim Vine? Seen Tim Vine? the comedian, okay, he uses tension to great effect. Have you ever seen him doing pen behind the ear? If you haven't, look at it, it's about 5 minutes. He spends 5 minutes trying a pen to land behind his ear, which is ridiculous. And at first the audience are embarrassed. Then they get a little bit tense. And then they start laughing. And they start laughing quite a lot more. And there's got all this music going in the background saying pen behind the ear. And then it stops. And then they think, oh, it's all over. God for that, it's embarrassing. And he goes, starts picking them all up and then starts again. And the audience is in fits. And it's because of tension. And now you can learn from that because you can use that in your speeches. When you're working down a particular road, you're building a tension. You then want to try and reverse it to get a laugh. Because the tension's built up, it's palpable. And I saw a lady do this actually in last Tuesday. She was a fairly new speaker, but she was talking about scuba diving. And it's not going to be funny now because I'm not going to build the tension, so don't worry. But all this thing about how she was dying, she thought she was going to die, or didn't know how to breathe underwater, she was scared. And then the reveal, when everybody was tense, was, well, I was only in a pool in Hertfordshire. And I thought, that's exactly what I want to tell you. That's absolutely super. Who knows Craig Valentine? Who's heard of Craig Valentine? Okay, well, let's tell you what he says. He says you should look at a speech and then you should discover the humour in the speech. So he says, leave a little bit out and then put it in depending where you are, depending on the location or person. Now, I do that with Steve Brewer. I did that with Dereham tonight. And you can do that in any of your presentations or speeches. Write something that could be used for where you are. And even a simple thing will get a laugh if you pick on the authority or the place you're in, something like that. He also says use dialogue to get a laugh. I think I'm running over time here. What's the time now? Okay. So you look at the person who's in the audience and you ask them about that. I asked Marcus about his kid. He's got a son apparently. I said to him, what do I say? He said, well, he looks just like me. I said, well, don't worry as long as he's healthy. So you pick on the person who's organising. You pick on the person and you use that for your humour. The rule of 3 is the key thing here. Sometimes the rule of 3. 1, 2, 3, and then twist. And everybody wants the 3. I did that, a particularly interesting joke I wrote for Ian's roast. I'm proud of you, might not think it's funny, but I did at the time and the audience did. He'd been doing a lot of dating. He'd done 2 or 3 speeches about dating, all the things he'd been doing to try and find a girlfriend. And actually, he isn't that ugly. He is, though, in case you watch this, Ian. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, he would be a 2. But he was doing all this dating. So I was kind of doing this roast. I was going to pick on the joke, the dating. So I said, Ian started doing online dating. He's been doing speed dating, blind dating, and with some of his girlfriends, carbon dating. But you can't laugh there as well. You see the trick, it's using the 3 and then something completely reverse. And that's how you write a joke. Really, you can learn about that in those books. And then I actually said to double the day, I actually used a joke that I didn't write. I said before he got into online and speed dating, I set him up on a blind date. I said, she's a lovely girl, but there's something you should know about her. She's expecting a baby. He said he felt a right pillock afterwards, standing there in just a nappy. So the last thing I'll tell you about writing structured speeches is that you should think about taking the mickey out of yourself as well. I regularly used to, and I started off by taking the mickey out of myself about the diet thing. Actually I'm on diet, so it doesn't matter. So let's look at off-the-cuff speaking or unstructured speaking, which is actually my particular love. I much prefer to be free and work what happens into whatever I'm going to say in table topics. And you can do this in pub chat, you can use it in a dinner party, make yourself a life and soul party, all sorts of things. I'm on 20.
No, 19. Good.
Okay, good. I'm just a little bit behind. Okay, never mind. I'm going to give you 3 things that you can use in off-the-cuff speaking. And there's always going to be 3. It probably could have been 5 or 6 or 1 or 2. So it might be one of these is rubbish and the other 2 are good. Who knows? Some of you have seen me do cheese. I know Constance has. and I always make them funny, don't I, Constance?
Absolutely, yes.
Right, so just so I can get some cheese authority, I'll take Mickey out of her later.
Thank you.
Exaggeration. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you. Now, for me, I actually did an evaluation last week of Richard Rutty, who is an extremely able and very strong speaker, former president of East Heart Speakers, who's doing a fabulous speech. He said to me beforehand, watch out for my hand gestures. I told him in the past that he does a lot of this, which is the clinch, which is pushing a point forward. I said, watch my hand gestures, see what they're like. So his hand gestures were this. Well, I'll tell you what his hand gestures were in the audience when I delivered these. He said, this is how he delivered his speech. So I said, Richard Rutty was doing this. It looked a little bit like some sort of T-Rex dance that we're all going to do when we get down to the bar. And the audience liked it. It worked well because they'd seen him do it. When I started taking Mickey out of him, and I didn't tell them I was going to make a joke like I did with you, it's always better when there's a surprise. And it worked. I went to North Heart Speakers, and there was a lot of wasn't stance at that particular time, and there was one lady that was doing a lot of this, and a little bit of that. It wasn't particularly bad, but it was wrong, you know. So I almost made it into a ministry of silly walks when I gave the kind of, well, this is what she was doing when she was standing there. You know, and I don't know how she didn't fall over. So, you know, it's about exaggeration. If everybody knows that you're going to take Mickey out of everybody, you can get away with it. So observation. What's the next? Observation's the next one I'm going to tell you about. What has happened? What has happened, and what can you get, you know, a laugh out of? When I went to Chelmsford, I was talking about how friendly they were, and how when I came in, two people had said hello to me and asked who I was, and the third person accosted me in the men's toilet. That's how friendly it is. And I actually then used what I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, which is a callback, and I said, but I'm not going to tell you who he was. So then when I came back to evaluating that person later, I could say, but I'd already met him once earlier, I referred to it, and I've got a laugh, because I knew I meant the toilet. So the third one is callbacks, and who knows what callbacks is? Anybody know what a callback is? Okay, that's interesting, that's one of the best things you can do in speaking. Again, you use it all the time. A callback is to refer back to something that's been said before, or when you write a speech, you make it funny up front, you can then use it 2 or 3 times during the speech. That's called a callback. You can make your own callbacks up, by the way, when you do a general evaluation or a table evaluation. Look for a theme. Go out there thinking, oh, look at how they're dressed. Are they all well dressed? And so you can then come up and say, oh, well, Linda came forward and she looked really smart today. Carl came forward and he looked really smart. But I'm not going to mention Marcus's dress. We haven't even got to have a go at him. Everyone knows that you're going to say, I'm picking on you tonight. You could do starts, you could do moving about the stage, but if you look for a theme, you've got the brilliant chance to use callbacks to what's been said and to make the joke funnier and funnier and funnier throughout your evaluations. So, and one of the things that I did is, well, if you say a bonus, this isn't really one of those 3, but it's back on the tension. And you know, I'm not going to go on camera for this, it's going to come off camera, so unfortunately for that. I went to Berkhampton, now I've done this first time there, and I've done it 2 or 3 times since, and it always works. I've done it in Cambridge, I've done it in King's Cross. If someone delivers an evaluation, and they're delivering it purely to Carl, say, or they're delivering it purely to Peter, or whatever it might be, say it's Peter, it's easier. You come to their evaluation and you say, and then Peter delivered his evaluation, and he talked to the person, he told me them, you sit down in front of them, you ignore the rest of the audience, and that actually is so stupid, and it builds up so much tension because people don't expect you to move into the audience and do that. That's how you can use tension in your evaluations if you want to, because it's really embarrassing. And if you don't mind causing embarrassment, that's what I would say you should do. Now there ends the 3 things. We're now on question and answer. How long have we got left?
Well, 24 minutes now.
Okay, well, I'm about a minute ahead, which means we've got 5 minutes and I get 1 minute to wrap up. So, we've got 5 minutes of questions if you've got any, Anita.
I'm just going to ask, where's the line between being funny and offending?
There isn't one.